It's very important to understand this, especially when talking about opinions or thoughts or ideas or anything of that nature. Ideas, opinions, thoughts, beliefs, like what is their nature? Well, one thing that I am certain of is that they change. A thought will come and go. An idea will stick around only temporarily. So it once was and now it isn't. And same can be said about opinions or beliefs or what have you, is that so often I have changed my opinion radically within a matter of however many months or years or whatever, that the future me would be almost embarrassed by past me from kind of the radical change in opinion. As in, I was once so wrong that me now, who believes I am right, which might not be the case as we know, would be embarrassed of silly old past me. And that is the nature of these things, is that they develop, they change, they grow as you experience and learn and things like that. I grew up being told to believe one thing, and then a rather influential person came along in my life and said, well, how about this, right? So I had developed this kind of belief system through my upbringing, and then was informed of this other way of thinking about things. And it was thinking about it now, I guess it felt like a game of tug of war. I was trying to get it seemed as if I was being pulled in either direction from both parties, which is, it's strange. And I would regurgitate the information kind of held by either person or either belief structure or what have you. It's only, okay, I was young, I was growing up. It's things like this. And I believe you don't have much of a choice when you're growing up. You don't have much of a framework to filter kind of the world through, because you haven't developed it. It's part of the maturation process. I see that clearly now, having come out of it, is that my opinions and ideas were dictated by other people, by the pull of somebody else, which to an extent, it has its place in the world. You have to be influenced by people or educated by textbooks or literature. You have to be open to other people's view on things, as it very well might be beneficial. And there are some objective truths that are hard to argue with, right? And maybe you shouldn't. To wrap back around to the earlier point of all of these things have to be in development. They have to change and improve, and they have to, unrefined thought has to be turned into refined thought. And that is the maturation process. Now, we can come to the conclusion quite nicely then that you should be changing often. Your ideas and your beliefs and your opinions and all of that should be developing as experience and education continue to develop. It seems that is something I want to strive towards, is to be in constant change. Now, the problem arises when, okay, I am going to be filming myself talking about certain ideas, opinions, thoughts. So what happens when future me is so embarrassed by what past me said? Well, embarrassment isn't in the cards anymore. It's not. It's just recognizing the trajectory of change, and that is a beautiful thing. Now, the interesting thing is, and a point I would like to to try and make with adapting somebody else's point of view is it not absurd to do so? And let me tell you why. The kind of running off the assumption that we are a product of our surroundings. You find identity in certain things, the way you spend your time, your interests kind of define you in a way that you could almost be distinguishable from somebody else. And you see this in the cultural differences between societies, right? So there are distinguishable differences between certain cultures, of course, as we are a product of our surroundings. Now that is at a certain level, so we could kind of zoom in a little bit and just look at us as individuals and understand that we are a product of our upbringing, our experience, our surroundings, and things like that. Now, would it not be absurd to adapt somebody else's point of view as they are a product of their surroundings? Should you not instead have an individual perspective on the world as you are a product of your upbringing and your surroundings and things like that? Now, of course, learn from other people and what they have to say, as it might benefit you. In fact, it probably would benefit you to do so. At least I've found in my life that listening to what somebody has to say has really helped with certain refinement. Okay, so just another little note to add here is that people have different perspectives, as we've just discussed. They have a different view on things. Now that changes the way they interpret one thing. Okay, so interpretation is this other aspect of ourselves that, well, it changes everything. You could have a statement that two people interpret completely differently. So it is just important that we note that and that we be careful of it, as somebody else's interpretation on a certain happening could vary greatly to your interpretation. Therefore, the conclusions met on any given subject will vary from subject to subject. So again, just backing up that kind of importance of being yourself and not just adapting other ideas and opinions and thinking critically for yourself, which is a skill that needs to be developed. And it seems that many people, including myself at one stage in my life, didn't really practice this skill. And it is hard to do so. It takes more effort, which is why people steer away from it. But if you want to be original, it's obviously something you have to practice. And often times you will find more reward and a sense of accomplishment when differing from the norm, from what everybody else thinks. And it's not to get lost in your own stupidity. It is just to think for yourself and see what arises and see what comes about by practicing that particular skill. So of course you see the world through your eyes. Is it not absurd to see the world through somebody else's? Now, with that being said, it should be stressed that there is importance in seeing the world from somebody else's point of view. We all have our blind spots, areas of lacking. Now, somebody else might not have those particular blind spots, but they sure as hell have blind spots. Now, the seeing the world through somebody else's perspective is a learning opportunity. Is it an opportunity for development? As in doing so, you see things you might not have seen. You question things you might not have previously questioned. It is paramount to the developmental process. So be sure to practice seeing the world through other people's point of view But I would say, at least personally, be cautious of cloning their existence and their perspective and taking it in as your own, because that will lead you to, well, a path of unoriginality, lack of authenticity, and you just don't want that. At least I don't. Now, again, on the topic of blind spots, is there is importance of standing up for what you believe in. You have to stand up for what you think is right, as it is possible that you see. Now, it's important not to overstep here, but it is impossible. It is possible that you see somebody's blind spots, and you can help them out, right? Maybe you've experienced something and the other person has not, or you have seen the end result of certain actions that people are willing to take, whether it be a problem at work or a clever idea to a tricky problem. You might know the end result from past experience. So it's important to stand up for what you know or what you have experienced or what you believe to be true, as you can point out other people's blind spots. You can aid them in their understanding of particular subjects. And maybe you just have this outlandish idea that you need to discuss with somebody, and it's controversial, and it may cause offense, or it may cause turmoil. It is still, I believe, important to stand up for what you believe in, as if you don't, you will never know what could have sprung from your thoughts and your ideas, which have hopefully stemmed from this place of originality. So I guess in closing, this video is, I guess, a statement of myself wanting to practice original thought, in recognizing the importance of adapting somebody else's point of view, but at least creating your own filtration process in doing so. This is something that I need to be practicing more often. And I feel that when you find something like that in life, it is best to share it. So that's exactly what I'm doing. And of course, for future opinion pieces and thought experiments and ideas that I put on this platform, I would like this video to be taken into account, as opinions, ideas, and thoughts tend to change over time, and it's an area of concern for me, at least, that in the future I will not agree with what past me has put out into the world. But obviously that is the nature of these things, and that is the nature of life in general. It's evolution, it's progression, it's development. So it's really silly to get caught up on the kind of the negative side of what that might entail. To brush up on the sense of reward you get when thinking for yourself and coming to conclusions that were otherwise unseen, well, it's so, there's beauty in it. It's something to be desired, and it's something that I hope to continue to practice and develop. Anyway, nonetheless, I believe that's all I have to say for today, and I'm going to wrap it up here.